Hey, hello.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Busy as usual.
Yeah. What do you do for a living?
Actually, I do a lot of different things. Right now, I'm laying out the Wakefield daily item.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and I do some other things. I was teaching for a while. How about
Yeah.
you?
I'm a real estate broker.
Oh,
hmm Crazy
I see you
busy.
got. I see you got a brace on. What happened?
Um, Stairs are not my friend. I was
It's
walking up the,
not your friends. Yeah.
yeah, I was walking up the stairs at the New Balance um in Brighton. I went to watch my niece run and just didn't I just tripped, fell onto my hand and I broke my fourth metacarpal.
Oh, well, I
Yeah.
hope you get better.
Oh, thanks. It wasn't even a week ago, so the pain is excruciating. I've never broken a bone before. I'm 52 years old.
Yeah, I broke when I was 13.
Mm.
No, well, as you get
Hopefully this
older,
gets
they say
better.
it's tough to mend, tougher to mend.
Yeah, I don't sit still, so it's been hard on me this week. But
Yeah.
hey, Phil,
Are you a broker
Hey,
in
how you
Wakefield or
doing?
all around?
I covered the state of Massachusetts.
Oh,
Yesterday I had to go to Plymouth.
yeah. Is the market tight down there?
I just had a buyer who I sold them a condo in Plymouth, so I go wherever they need me to.
Yeah.
So how you doing, Phil?
Doing okay. I'm in a car up at Danvers Indoor Sports parking lot, taking the call.
Oh,
So I'm trying to figure out. Do you guys see captions when I'm talking on your screen?
no.
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 Okay, I'm trying to figure that out. Frank asked me to be host, and so Sherry sent me like a page and a half instructions on how to do that. So I'm just
Oh,
trying to figure out how to do live transcript.
I've never done that before.
Yeah, we're learning as we go.
hmm
How you doing? What, you got a sling on? Is that what you were just talking about?
Yeah, I broke my fourth metacarpal bone in my hand
Oh,
last
shit.
week. Freaking hurts.
Yeah, like crazy, huh? And
Yeah.
and those things don't heal very easily. There's so many little bones.
Well, I woke up this morning at 4:30 and my hand was swelling out of the cast splint thing, and I was like, "This can't be good." And when I went to
Yeah.
back to Excel, they're like, "That's you're fine. Just ice it." I'm like, "What? Is that how this works?"
Really?
Uh-huh.
I've never broken anything before, so they're like, "Yeah, you're fine as long as you can move your fingers."
Oh, you can't type though.
No, it's been very hard. So I've been doing a lot of voice stuff, but um yeah, it's been a very long few days.
Well, sorry to hear that. That sucks.
Yeah, it sucks, but thanks. It's 6 weeks, he said.
I'm sure it's a stellar story of how it happened too, right? Like climbing that, were you mixing eggs with a whisk or something? And
Yeah,
you,
yeah. I wish there
that's what
was a really
happened.
good story. Yeah, yeah.
There never is. As you get older, the stories get worse when it comes to injuries.
Yeah. It's really just, me and stairs. They just don't get along. So,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
they'll win every now and then.
yeah.
Oops.
So did everyone see the new rug at the library?
I did not.
No.
I have not been in the library in ages. Why? How does it look? Does it look okay?
It's wonderful.
Good.
Looks really
Nice.
nice. It's a bluish tone.
Nice.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
Hi, Dan.
Hmm. I don't know. Here we go. I think I think closed captioning might be working now. Does that, you see something at the bottom of your screen with me talking?
No,
Sorry, no.
I see it on my end.
Oh,
Okay, well, maybe okay. I don't know.
wait a minute.
oh
wait a
wait,
minute.
there's
I
a
thought
place to
this-
show captain. Yeah, I can, yep.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's supposed to be on, I guess. Okay, that was the. It
So
says
everyone,
it's
what
somewhat-
has to happen, Phil, is that at the bottom of the screen, everyone has to click on hide captions or show captions.
Yeah, I think it's just for the public recording of it, like,
Yeah, I see it now. Yeah,
Yeah.
Tracy's right.
yes, I think as long as, because I'm the host, I think I see it no matter what, and then,
Oh, I see.
when we get posted onto YouTube, which these things do end up on, YouTube and Facebook, these meetings.
Facebook?
Yeah, the WCAT page, they
Oh,
post,
really?
they post all public meetings, yeah, and their YouTube, channel too.
I knew the YouTube channel, but I didn't think it was gonna be on Facebook.
Well, you gotta go digging for it, but it's on there somewhere. Or
Hmm.
maybe it just links you to their webpage or the
Hmm.
YouTube page, I mean,
Right, right.
yeah. Joe and Frank, okay.
Hi, everyone. I look so tiny.
Hello,
Hello. Hi, folks.
Hello,
Is that just the six of us right now? Yeah. I don't see anybody else. Oh, technically it's seven because I'm on the field. Right.
you're a little difficult to hear, Frank.
Okay, talking like this, you can't hear me?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
All right, I'll just yell when Joe's here. I'm at Joe's office. I need to get a new camera for my office.
Okay,
So we're just missing Dave?
yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, just Dave.
we got quorum.
It's always good for 7, 10. Right, Dave? You listening?
Joe, are you sharing your spreadsheet? Do I need to like host you or something, or,
Nope. If we have to share anything, I'll take care of it. I appreciate the offer for the assist though.
yeah, well, I don't know if like I had to designate you something to share, but I'm gonna make you co-host just to give you, I want to give you some sense of responsibility.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Does everybody have a copy though that I emailed out or Joe emailed out last week?
yeah, I got a copy of the spreadsheet today.
Yep.
Basically the same. It's just a working copy right now. Next time Joe can go live and give us all the updates. Well, I'll call the meeting to order, understanding that Jeff's the only one missing. It's 7:04. How's everybody doing? All right?
Yep.
All right, so obviously our first meeting's gonna be pretty cut and dry. Joe can review everything that we've done in the past year or even before that, see what the progress is. We'll review the current list, so just go over it real quick. we essentially don't have to go over everything at this point because by our next meeting, some stuff could already be off that list. So, it's probably at about 6.5 million right now. By the time we meet again, it might be down to 4 million, so, without us even doing anything, so there's no need to talk about anything like air condensers on the building that might be dropped off for some reason, but, we can talk about anything you guys want. If no one has anything, opening questions, I'll just throw it over to Joe and he can go through everything last year and let us know how it's coming.
Actually, does anybody oppose if I start with this year?
Nope.
Uh,
All right, we're gonna go right into this year.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, can everybody see the running spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yes.
So, like Frank had said, most of this is the same. A couple of things have been tweaked since you guys got it. Kind of to touch a little bit on what Frank was saying, I have a little bit of more information when we get to buildings, in a second, but this year, our fleet section, as far as the number of vehicles, that were requested this year are pretty small. Albeit, some of them are a little bit more expensive than we're used to. One thing I mentioned, at least in acquisitions of vehicles right now, is it's a tough process to get anybody to commit to any numbers because the inventory and build times are still completely upside down. To put that in perspective, this group approved Public Works to build and get a dump truck in 2021. And I'll probably see that next month. So it took almost 2 years to get that and put it into service. So they're predicting that much of that's going to be the same. My group we ran into one issue with Factory Ford. They actually canceled an order that we had because they couldn't fit it in. So I would suspect that possibly next year and the year after, the requests for vehicles, unless it's a big time specialty thing, are probably going to be on the light side. But 2 or 3 years down the road, if that changes, I would expect that to kind of get a little bit more expansive for people making up for some lost time due to capacity issues at the dealerships. In the building section, so this is going to be a little bit. So this is going to be a little bit fluid. If anybody is aware, so the town got the green community status and has about $190,000 in grant money that we could use for energy efficiency projects that we have to commit to by March 20th. So the buildings that are getting focused on now are the Civic Center, the Dahlberg School, Town Hall, and the public safety would have been fourth, but that's been tabled, obviously, because the permanent building committee has that project going on right now. So there are some things when we get into this, like Frank had mentioned, we might find next time that it disappears from the list because we're going to plug that into the grant and seek funding for that, via another means. So I'll just kind of quickly walk through the buildings. Feel free to interrupt me, whenever. But for Town Hall, we have the last phase of the windows here that will be completely updated. We're looking to replace a rubber roof. So this rubber roof is, I call it the north side of the building, but if you're familiar with the building, it's essentially above the clerk's office and think the building inspector. So it's the side closest to the lake. And then we have some rugs upstairs that we're looking to replace it again, kind of ratty. The public safety building in the bunk room for the fire side, they're looking to replace the floor. If you remember last year, this group approved some work at 5 Common Street. We did windows, we did a roof. We rebuilt that basement entry. So we're looking to just basically finish that building off with siding and a couple of the remaining windows that we have left to do. My group is looking to get a storage shed out at 11 Lafayette Street. That's essentially the garage, for lack of a better term, for buildings. That's where all of their stuff is basically stored. Another roof this year. This number for 9 Albany Street is a placeholder. I can tell you that the quote that we got was fantastic, and this number is going to drop by about half. So this is the Ace building. This is to take the rubber roof off and completely replace it.
So 120, it was on last year's for 85. So you got a quote, you said, for a lot better than even that.
Yeah, so like I said, Phil, I just threw a number at it as a placeholder to be ultra conservative, but I don't have the piece of paper right in front of me. I got it this morning. I think the price is going to be around 60. So I was actually pleasantly surprised with that. So that'll all be updated by the time when we end this meeting. I'll update that with anything new that I got trickled in today, and then you get a new running total before we talk again. At the senior center, some HVAC work. They're looking to see if we could do 2 air handlers on that building. They also noticed while they're up there looking at it that some of the fascia and soffits, some of the wood was rotted. So we want to cut that out and replace it. That way it doesn't cause us more problems down the road. Dan McGrath at the Civic Center got a very good price to refinish the floor in the gym. He also got that price to include the heritage room and the front hallway. So essentially, when you walk up the stairs, everything that you can walk on that your first main floor, for lack of a better term, is going to be sanded and refinished for that price.
Does that include repainting the lines?
So it'll just be polyurethane, so they're not going to go into the line, but basically stuff it and recoat it.
Okay.
And then the heritage room needs the most amount of work.
Okay.
It hasn't been touched in a while.
Yeah, I don't know if refinishing is a capital expense, Joe. Sorry to say, it needs to get done, but I don't know, it's not a capital improvement.
I mean, we can talk about that. I got it in here because it was submitted, so I said I would have a conversation. But we also have a Brickley point at that building that we noticed. If you look at the front of the building, over the front stairs, there's actually a mezzanine that kind of jets out a little bit. Much like what we were doing inside, we're looking to put some structural steel onto that to shore that up, to make sure it's secured into the building appropriately. And then I also have in here a solar panel project for that. I have a meeting with the historical commission, I believe on Tuesday, to talk about this. But if you're a fan of solar or know anything about it, that roof is the best roof in town for one of these units. It's big, it's flat, it's due south, and you could really punch out a lot of electric power through that. This is something that I'm going to, we've had great luck 2 years in a row. We've submitted letters into Beacon Hill and gotten earmarks in the state budget for this type of work. I'm hoping that we're going to be successful with that again. But for the time being, I included it in this just in case as a fail-safe. But I would anticipate this could be one of those projects that might end up dropping off this list because we're able to fund it alternatively. North Ave at the DPW, we're looking to replace 2 of the garage doors. I don't have the price for that yet. There's a Modine heater, which is basically screwed up into the roof that heats our garage space. That needs to be replaced. Our electrician, Michael, is looking to see if we could also do an automatic transfer switch there, which would throw the building over onto the generators automatically should we lose power. And we have a couple of spots in our offices where the tile is friable. We're looking to remove that and abate it, and replace it with something that's a little bit more durable. 110 Broadway, that's actually the center building at the water department. Our buildings group noted that's probably going to need a roof.
Joe, should that be in the water division? Being a water building?
Yeah, it can be. When we get down to that, if we put it in the water division, I'll probably have to cut it out. I don't think we have enough money to do it, but we can talk about that as we go along.
Yep.
Vinton Street, so that's actually an old pumping station. It's actually a Fernal Field. It's that brick building behind it. When that was decommissioned as a pumping station, what it ended up turning into is a space for fire alarm to store some of their stuff. Weights and measures has storage in there. And then our buildings group here is actually storing some of the supplies in there. So they took a look at that and found, it was a place that was started to be used as temporary. Now we found that we're likely not going to get out of it anytime soon. So to give a little attention to that, potentially get a little bit of heat in the building so they could store possibly janitorial supplies and not have to worry about it freezing up on them. And then there's some old drop ceilings and everything in there that are basically well past their prime, and some lighting that they're looking to try to replace to make that a little bit more comfortable when they're working in and out of that. We have the Yule School again. This has come up, I think, the last 2 years with the boilers there. These are technically the last boilers that the town has that are fired up at oil. The only difference with this is, so the fuel is actually paid for by the tenant that's in there now. So this isn't costing us anything at the moment. I'm still not 100% sure what the long-term plan is for that school, but this is there because those boilers are probably well past their intended life, and something that they noticed. They also have some unit vents there that they're looking to potentially replace. And then remember, if it wasn't last year, it was the year before, we had a hallway where some of the tile was friable asbestos, and we started to remove it. This would be another section of it where it's starting to get to the point where it's either starting to come apart or about to come apart soon. The Woodville School. There's some big ticket items here. The chiller replacement on the roof. When my group comes in and we could dial down into a lot more detail here. It's my understanding that this is the only operational chiller that's up there. And if it goes, so does the ability to cool the building. This is original to the building rehab, and our HVAC mechanic was actually the one that installed it 20+ years ago when they built that school, so he's intimately familiar with it. There's another request from the school department. I apologize, I need a clarification on that. I believe that's a redundant request for the chiller that I just mentioned. And then they also have an RTU on that roof that the school department was looking to replace. We go to the Greenwood School. So my group is looking to see if we can upgrade the electrical service. And the reason that we're looking to do that is to move forward with a split system or some type of cooling for that building. We're going to need to up the juice coming into it to be able to handle that.
Yeah, I have a question about the Greenwood. What is the long-term plan for that building?
I honestly, for me to comment, that's probably inappropriate. I couldn't tell you. I would imagine at some point in time, it's probably due for a rehab, maybe a slight addition depending on how enrollment in the district goes. I think, at least probably for the school department right now, their eyes are kind of on the high school next, but at some point in time, that project will be over, and I would imagine that naturally the focus would potentially go to the Greenwood. But they could probably elaborate on that a little bit more when they come in and talk to the group.
Did we allocate some money for looking into doing that?
Yep, so we
Last year?
did, and Phil, this is actually a question I have for the PVC, but based on the feedback that we got, the only way that any of the companies that came out and did some work there for us are gonna be able to accomplish that, is to use a rooftop. And the last company that was in there is looking to put 11 penetrations into that roof. So I know there's some sensitivity there with the warranty and the thing basically being brand new. So I think we have to have a conversation on the permanent building committee level to find out, is this off limits for now? Well, there may be a potential warranty issue. I'm not 100% versed on that, but
There's no warranty issue as long as the work is done by a certified roofer of the manufacturer and it's done with the roofing details at the manufacturer, then they come out, re-inspect and for the warranty. So you just have to use the right people that are certified and to do it and using the right details. And so you can't, so that's the only, this happens a lot with my buildings, and cell towers come in, and you just have to use the right roofer and make sure the manufacturer knows. But you can bring it up with Joe Bertrand too and ask, but my experience is that it's doable. But you gotta, you gotta go the right way. So the feasibility, so is there a feasibility study? I think Joe asked that last year. So was there a study performed?
So we didn't put out a feasibility study because basically what we were getting back was they felt their budget was a little bit low. And they said go directly to the vendor themselves. So on the Woodville, the high school, the Dolbear, a lot of the COVID work that we did, we used Dakin. So they came out and looked at it. Another company, Burnell, came out and looked at it. We basically had 3 companies out there to quote us for design, build, and all the install. They all came in around $220,000. And interestingly enough, all of them said the same thing, that they wouldn't recommend, using the mini splits and putting them on the ground all the way outside the building. They would recommend to go through the roof. So with that being said, obviously, I'll have to have a quick conversation with Joe and get that spec and whatnot, but.
Yeah, it's not a permanent building project anymore. I think it was turned over to the town, but I don't know if that's,
No, yeah, I know. I remember there was a back and forth with it where they thermoed it or whatever they did.
It was an
I just want to make
infrared.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. So like the public safety building's the same way. We kind of stayed away from it. Even though we're dying to get in there and do some stuff because that building and the Civic Center are 2 of the biggest energy consumers in town. But where it's going to be brand new, we don't want to come in after the fact and start changing things and make that any more complicated than it needs to be for right now. So we consciously kind of avoided that. This one, we just want to make sure before we put our fingerprints on it that it's not going to make anything with the project that preceded us to be any more complicated.
yeah. I know when they did the roof, they had to do a solar study at Greenwood, and it turned out not to be a good candidate. And I don't know if that was because of direction or because of the structural weight on the roof. So that would be a question to ask Joe too.
I'm just going to ask him for the spec.
Yeah.
Okay, the Dolbear School. So both of the RTUs on that building are original to when that was put in place. This is something that is identified in that Green Communities grant potential. We said that this is one of the things in our energy reduction plan that we want to do. So as we see what all those projects come to and what we can fit in, one of these RTUs might actually get covered by that. I'm not 100% sure right at the moment. The Galvin, a couple of small things, just replace the hot water heater. Our plumber had mentioned that the PRV, basically a pressure reducing valve on the water service that feeds the building. Generally, there's some redundancy there. For whatever reason, at the Galvin, there's not. So this modification would be to put that in. So that is there. God forbid that the original one fails. You'll still be able to have water come through the building. And then on the rear of the building, on the loading dock, the school department, I believe, is looking to put a heater in there because they have a space that they use quite frequently. I think they're storing trash and whatnot that abuts one of the offices that is essentially unheated now and gets relatively cold.
Joe, there was, when I first joined the permanent building committee, the Galvin was just built, right? And so I was like, they were dealing with like the warranty stuff, like how it had started settling again. And there was a couple other things. And I swear one of the big things that was a ton of back and forth was the water pressure coming in the building.
Yes.
And so is this gonna mess up whatever they did? Did they never fix that? And this is the fix, or do you know what I mean? I'm just mentioning it because I remember it being an issue of some sort, but I don't really know. I don't remember much else besides that it was an issue of some sort.
I kind of jumped in at the same time you did, at least up to this level. My understanding of it is they had some water pressure problems with some of the expansion tanks and some of the design. They also had a problem with
Yeah.
the photovoltaic cells on the devices themselves, because the lights in the bathroom essentially were set on timers to go off if there's no movement, but if there's no light, it can't charge the battery.
it's charged.
Stuff.
Yeah,
This is basically just a redundancy piece as a fail-safe. But when we dial into my stuff, or the building stuff, I should say, a little bit more detail, I can make sure that the building stack gives you a much better, more detailed, probably to your level, Phil, explanation, but
Yeah.
it's essentially, an option 1 and an option 2, down in there.
okay. Yeah, I remember the expansion tanks now were like, but they were blowing or something. So, okay, just as long as I don't want you to go in and do it and then, yeah, revert it back to whatever the issue was or vice versa. If this fixes it, great. So,
I know enough to know that we don't want to repeat that. I'll put it
No.
that.
No.
Let's see, the Doyle School, so, my group, is looking to upgrade the electrical service. If anybody's been in that school, there's actually a new kitchen in it now that the school department built, to make some lunches and whatnot. The service is probably original to whenever they built the building, in the 50s. Interestingly enough, not on this plan, but the Doyle Playground has come up from time to time. The town actually secured $150,000 in grant funding to do that. So we will be replacing that playground really as soon as they can deliver it to us. But that's something I know that was on the long-term look that'll actually not need to be done through this process because we're able to get funds the other way. The school department put in something for rooftop repairs and maintenance. I'll be honest, I don't know the complete details to this. Tim will have to elaborate on any specifics to that when the public schools come in. And then last but not least, in the building section, the BB library is looking to replace their roof. The $250,000 number is a placeholder for right now. Our roofer that's on contract with us was on the roof with them today again. They've been up there a couple times to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I should have an updated exact number for that. Hopefully by tomorrow, if not by Tuesday. So that could be subject to change. I'm hoping to follow suit with the Ace building.
Hey, Joe, curiosity question. We might get into it when we go over last year's list, but what happened with the masonry in the front?
So my engineering group now, they were able to do their due diligence. They found all the building plans. They are going to, when we do our borings for our asphalt work this year, we're essentially gonna do one in the corner there. It looks like the fill in there is stable and that we might just need to take the treads off of the stairs and reset them. But we should have a boring done up there pretty soon to double check and make sure that what's stated on paper is actually what is the existing conditions. And if that's the case, I could probably just do it through my operating budget where we'll take the treads down, we'll rebuild them, we'll reset them, repoint them. And there's that part to be finished. I know that Catherine and her group there were, debating on whether or not they wanted to redo the brick in the plaza with something else. But that would kind of be like a part B to that.
Great.
So FP&C is just shorthand for forest, park, cemetery. Vetsfield, so the town is pursuing putting a bathhouse at Vetsfield and doing some other work. It'll include a parking lot rehab and some other things. It'll basically take the project that was done through the floor away and kind of extend it into the Vetsfield parking lot and kind of dress that up and make it nice. One of the things that was not included in that scope to this point was actually replacing the bleachers that are there now. What we'd be looking to do is behind the backstop, there's still actually the old posts from what I believe is a batting cage. So we remove that, put new pads under the bleachers. My group would probably end up taking out the benches and the pads for the teams that are there now, if need be, and kind of dressing that up all while we're in there one time. This money that is being requested here is essentially just to buy the bleachers for us while we're doing that work. On the common, so WCNA and a couple of folks in town, amongst myself, noticed that the paint and everything was starting to get a little faded on the bandstand, and it kind of needs a tune-up. As luck would have it, the gentleman that rehabbed that the last time about 30 years ago had all of his documentation and was able to give it to me so that I could go out and solicit vendors that were specialists in historic restoration. The tough part with that project is it's essentially a priceless piece, and I know the columns on that, a couple of them were getting into some rough shape, and I didn't really want to have to be the guy that was going to suggest to remove one and replace it. We were able to hook up with someone that only does this type of work, and essentially the $65,000 would be to rehab the whole thing, flashing, gutters, roofing, all the intricate details in the mold work, rehab all the columns, with something. There's a name for it, but it's essentially like puttied Bondo, and then paint it. This will cover everything but the masonry. So this will be, a complete rehab. This one may come up as a topic of conversation with the council, whether or not they think that this is something that they would like to think about ARPA funds for, or whatnot. If not, I do know coming up in March, there's some historic preservation grants available, so to be continued. The other monument on this is actually the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. The price tag is high. This is essentially on the upper common, that real tall pedestal with the gentleman on top holding the flag. There is somebody out right now. The town council did approve some money to have a study done to basically create a scope of work and give us the details we need to be able to qualify somebody able to rehab that. This is another one that historic preservation grant is available for, and I know that some members of the council are talking about it, but I would imagine that this could be something that comes up on their level too. And if it does, maybe this will be reduced to whatever the amount of funds we need to match the grant would be, or if not, removed altogether. It's up in the air still, kind of at this moment, but I have it in here as something that we're going to be trying to accomplish this year. And if all else fails, at least we can have a conversation on it and see what happens. The water bubblers that are on this, these are basically to replace all the water fountains around the lake. A couple of them, particularly the one in front of the Hartshorn house, the metal is just beyond the point of scraping and painting anymore. They really need to just be taken out and replaced. They get kind of rusty on the bases and they look a little bit unsightly. So this would essentially be to get 4 of those, and then my group would install them once the weather allows for that. The rubber playground service at the Doyle, we talked about that. I'll leave this in here for now, but I think once the group talks to the school department, this can come out because they were able to get funding from a different source. Again, I think this is on last year, playground and a rubber surface for the Dahlberg School. So this one, the larger of the 2 that you see here, I believe is for the one in the field, which is accessible from Vernon Street. It's currently wood chips now. The smaller of the 2, there's actually, if nobody's been back there, there's actually a smaller playground out back that is more geared towards, probably like first and second, kindergarten to 2nd grade. I would say I think they call them tot lots in the catalog, but if it were my call, we have the Walton on deck, the Doyle on deck. That smaller one at the Dolbear is probably throughout town the next likely one to go, just based on its age. It's probably 20, 25 years old now at this point. It's starting to get a little bit tired. Up at Landrigan Field, my group is looking to replace the deadbolt locks on the buildings up there. Down in the cemetery, I think we talked about this last year, but one of the things that's happening down there is, I'm not going to say we're running out of space, but we're selling graves and we need to come up with a plan to make sure that, that thing is able to serve the town for quite a few years in the future. Right now, we're actually doing a master plan for the whole facility. But we do have shovel-ready plans done essentially to build a cremation garden, and essentially what that would be is a small area just past the garage that's there. I would lay out flat. We have some walls with columbariums in it, and essentially they'd be miniature areas. If someone were to exercise the option of being cremated, they could get a smaller parcel down there and a stone, for family and loved ones and whatnot. Right now, the count is, we think we can fit about 2,000 cremains in there. And I don't have the number yet. I will have the number though. What we'd like to propose the town do is fund us the ability to build this so that, we can make it advantageous for people who maybe don't want to do a complete burial and take some of that real estate, that's a pretty limited resource and use this option. One of the things we'd like to do is we'd like to pre-sell it. So we could come up with a price that the town council would agree on, and we'll be able to say, at X amount of cremation lots sold, we will then have paid back the town. The only problem with that is state law says you can't pre-sell something that does not exist. So we have to build it before we can sell that. But this is something that will essentially be an upfront expenditure that would be paid back to the town in full, if not more.
What, Joe, why wouldn't this be a warrant article for something this big and something so specific?
Honestly, Phil, it's probably gonna be. I have it in there because you never know how we're gonna go, with any of this stuff. But that's the intention. If this gets dropped out of this, this is one of the probably 2 warrant articles that I'll have in the spring to do.
Yeah, it was at 250 last year and it was dropped. So now that it's up to 400, I don't know how much money we have this year, but we always have about the same. So I don't know. It's a big ticket.
Yeah, so the 250 number last year was essentially the groundwork. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna buy the niches, which is essentially the vertical, essentially vertical walls. They're almost like little cubbies.
Yeah.
Obviously much nicer, but that would be the whole thing. So it'd be a one-time instead of phasing the project.
Joe, if I may ask, this is Dan Calori. Just back on the Doll Bear for just a second, the 2 playground surfacing projects, they're identical. they're labeled identically, but I think I missed what you said. Are there actually 2 of these smaller playground sections that have to be done? Or is that's not a duplicate, obviously?
No, so there's actually 2 playgrounds at that school.
Okay.
One of them is geared, as I said, towards like the younger kids, and it's out back behind the school. That is a bigger one. That's essentially in the field. What the school department is going to talk about is they're looking to get away from using wood chips.
Yeah.
So that have smooth transitions should they have any students that have mobility issues and things like that.
Yep.
They want to make sure on an ADA level and a fairness level to the kids that that they can be able to get around and play with everybody else as easily as possible. So I think that's some of the mindset behind one of those, and then I'm going to assume that the other one is just because of age.
Same. Okay. Thank you.
And then last but not least,
Hold on, sorry. On the cremation garden, and I apologize, I should remember this from previous years, but if it goes to a warrant article, then it becomes essentially the debt becomes part of our tax base, right?
it would have to, unless there was some way, and the treasurer and the town accountant would have to authorize this, where you could fund that out of perpetual care. I don't think that they're going to be wanting to do that because of the way they have it invested to offset the budget. But that's something that can be discussed. when that point, but that has to be discussed at the next level.
Yeah, so I mean, just looking at this, I mean, if we're confident that it'll pay for itself, it doesn't seem fair for, 30 years worth of taxation increase, 10 or a 30-year tax increase when it's paying for itself. And in fact, that money should probably come out of either a special trust that will be repaid or operating funds. Because essentially the town is creating something that will pay for itself, so it shouldn't be looked at as a traditional capital investment, because capital investments are made to be maintained over time.
Right.
Just a thought.
Appreciate it. So then the last piece of this section, this is actually something, it's a request through Public Works, but it's coming through the Historical Commission. When we were doing the work on the Floral Way, it was brought to our attention that before I can remember, maybe you remember, Frank, but as you were going, if you're walking the lake clockwise, as you're coming down the hill in the Floral Way to the right-hand side of the old burial ground, there actually used to be in between the granite bollards, there actually used to be a white picket fence there that was removed for whatever reasons and not put back. So they had asked us at the time we were doing the project if we could restore that, and we didn't have the funding to be able to do it at the time, obviously, but we did say that we would bring it up as a capital request to see if we could fund replacing that and restoring it to the way that it used to be 30, 40 some odd years ago. Do you ever remember that? Yeah, I don't either.
Maybe you should give us some pictures.
Yeah, I can get that. I have them, but so that's essentially what that request is there. They had asked us for a few things that we were able to accommodate when we were down there. This was one that we unfortunately couldn't. So miscellaneous is just kind of a little hodgepodge of everything that doesn't really fit a building necessarily. It isn't a vehicle. So the buildings division here was seeking some funding to see if they could get a machine to use to clean the floors. Right now, everything that they do in the gym floors at the Civic Center and things like that is done by hand. That would also do the public safety building, so it's in there redundantly, but that would be a kind of a two-for one. Our buildings division is looking to upgrade their pro press for the plumbers. Basically, that presses on the copper fittings that we use all through town. In fleet maintenance, we found that one of the lifts that we use to do all of our work to the town fleet will actually not pick up some of the vehicles that we have. It's not strong enough. So we're looking to upgrade that. And we also have in here a mobile post lift. So within the last 2 weeks, we have a big drive-on lift in our fleet bay that essentially takes all of our heavy duty things, up to a fully loaded fire truck, lifts it in the air and lets it get worked on. That lift actually failed its inspection and needs to be tuned up. And they can't guarantee us that they're going to be able to get it to pass its inspection after the fact. So what this mobile post lift essentially is it's a portable lift that can lift up to 130,000 pound truck, but we have the ability to move it from bay to bay and slide it around. So it really becomes dynamic and we can operate it anywhere in our facility. Our fleet maintenance supervisor also noticed, so right now we don't have an AC machine, so we're looking to get one. And what they found was it came out of the police department, so they were getting the air conditioners on a cruiser recharged. And for the price that they paid to recharge one cruiser, we could have bought a whole bottle of the refrigerant and done probably 6 cars for that price. So it didn't make sense. We were farming something out that if we made the investment in the machine that we could get a much better bang for our buck. So we included that in this list for this year. The school department, I believe the facilities assessment they have listed in there was something that came up maybe last year or 2 years ago, maybe just before COVID, actually. But they're asking for that again. At the Galvin, there's a scoreboard at the soccer field along North Ave. Similar to what was done at Walshfield, we're looking to basically keep the existing poles, but update the board and all the functions to it and whatnot. So people can see the score. We're watching the kids play there. From the fire department, so Chief Sullivan, I put in a request for high-vis jackets for the staff. Essentially, I think did I send you a letter from Chief Sullivan?
No.
Okay, I'll send you a letter from Chief Sullivan, but essentially what he explains in this is something that instead of his firefighters having to wear their bunker gear, they were taken to a burning building. This is just another option to, keep them warm and visible, but not have to put on, that big gear that might be covered in smoke and whatnot. We're also looking for 12 gear lockers to accommodate the 2 sets of turnout gear that every firefighter now has. And then last in this section, we had funded a ADA study here, and that is completed. So now we need to start implementing some of the things that were discovered in that. Really what this is from the transition plan, this is ramps, access, egress, things like that to make sure that we're chipping away at the plan that we put together.
Does that include the Arts Center on Albion?
It could. I know that's something that is being discussed quite heavily now. There's 2 options there. This could include something like that. I know that the building here behind Town Hall, 11 Lafayette, is not ADA compliant, so it can't serve the public. There are other places, I can think of a couple of spots around the public safety building where we don't have curb cuts and ramps, that we might have to start looking into. But essentially, this could be anything from, doors that don't meet the pull requirement for the weight, to ramps and egress, a litany of things. But essentially, what we want to do is take the plan and start knocking down some of the punch list in there. So at least if we get called on it, we can demonstrate that we have a goal that we're working to. In IT, a little light. I'm not even going to pretend like I know really much of what a lot of this is, but Todd can probably elaborate a little bit more. But this is all for the library. We have a couple of computers and monitors. It looks like a barcode scanner and the external hard drives, if memory serves me correctly. Those might have shown up last year too. And then I think we also had the network printer on that last year too. But should the group decide that we want to extend the invite, I'm sure Todd can elaborate quite a bit more on that. So that kind of rounds out the tax levy section. So right now, preliminarily, it's 6.7. In the enterprises, in sewer, my group is looking. So right now, currently in our fleet, we have a vehicle that it's essentially a jet truck. So what it does is it will lift manhole covers and it can clean sewer mains from inside. The one thing it can't do is it can't remove any of the debris. So what they're looking to buy now, that is depreciating to the point where it's time to retire it and think about getting a new one. So they're looking to upgrade and get a back truck. It's much more efficient for the staff there. It also allows us to do much more than what we currently are now. And something that will be much safer for them too, believe it or not, some of the things that they're digging while they're trenching. This is probably going to be something that the next time we talk, we're going to think about leasing over a couple of years just to spread that number down a little bit to the sewer enterprise. We've talked about this one before. It always seems to get a good amount of attention at town meeting, but the Muffin Monster. So at the corner of Water Street and Farm Street is the biggest sewer pumping station that we have. The Muffin Monster is basically a grinder that takes anything that may be solid or semi-solid that gets into that building and grinds it into a pulp. this machine gets plugged in, turned on, and it never shuts off. It runs 24 hours a day, 365. So it's getting time with the hours that we're putting on the last one to start thinking about getting that out and getting another one in there.
It's only been about 2 or 3 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, that thing though, I mean, that takes,
FY 20, we approved the last Muffin Monster for 50 grand.
yeah, it's an invaluable piece, let me tell you.
Can you explain what it does again?
So anything that goes down the drain. So I'll leave your imagination to that, but through the garbage disposal, you name it, right? So it can't, solids can't flow through the pumps that are there that get pushed to Deer Island. So this thing, basically, this thing will take 2x4s and 2x6s and turn them into sawdust. So all the water channelizes into the building, has to run through this thing in a series of locks. It goes through that. It basically creates like a consistency of like orange juice pulp, really, and it allows our pumps to pump without, getting jammed up or broken.
Enough said.
And then the last thing in sewer that we do every year is an item for system improvements. So as we're out doing our investigations internally and long lining our infrastructure, every once in a while, we'll find areas where, we may have to dig and fix. This is just a fund that will allow us the capability to do that. We inevitably find something there. Outside of that, if a pump goes down or we need a piece of hardware for one of our stations or whatnot, this money would be there to fund that. It ends up being, used as a dig and fix situation that I explained, but it ends up also almost becoming like a break glass in case of emergency. We hope to never have to spend it, but we always seem to find out as luck would have it, there's something that pops up that is able to be utilized for. Same thing in water, so system improvements. This year, it's actually going to be, it's been a couple years. We typically buy hydrants, in multiple quantity at a time. So we might buy 20 of them and then put them out. Generally, as we're paving any road that has an old hydrant on it, we'll fix it first and update it. And then from time to time, typical, they might age out or they get hit or something like that. So we'll be buying some hydrants this year. And then probably a couple of gates that allow us to access and control some of the water mains we have on the street. And similar to what we did last year, we're also looking to do $500,000 in water mains. This will be a water main on Hopkins Street and a water main on Sylvan Street off of Broadway. How about that?
What is the number that the town manager is giving us for the tax levy?
So same as last year, so 2 million.
One more time, please.
2 million?
We're supposed
Okay.
to, we got to push Steve on this, guys.
Yeah, really.
He said he didn't commit to this, but I'll find the meeting where he talked about raising like a certain percentage every year of our funding, and I'm gonna find it and we're gonna remind Steve of that. We had 2.1 last year.
I was gonna say, you get to 2.1.
Yeah, 2.1 is what we approved. I think we need to push, they ignored the letter about ARPA. I don't think anyone got a response on that formally. I think Joe, you may have caught someone, or Frank, you may have caught someone off the sidewalk somewhere. A lot of the stuff, like all these huge HVAC things, great, ARPA funds. Isn't that what, let's upgrade the health and safety of our schools. So it would be great to get Steve on one of the next calls to really talk about this number and understand how they're coming up with these numbers. Cause this is my 7th year on this, and we've been at 2 million since I started this. Like none of these projects are getting cheaper. It makes no sense that we're not getting at least a 3 or 5% increase every year just to keep up with the times. Like, so I don't know.
We're just doing less.
yeah, we're getting less. We're actually spending less, than we did 7 years ago. And it's these lists are coming in bigger every year. So I don't know. I'm a little aggravated that we're getting the same. So
So I know, Mr. Mayo is, he was double booked tonight. He is at the finance committee. But, I'm sure that as the committee sets their meeting schedule, he will be popping in at some time.
yeah, it would be great to get him in early to really, because that obviously drives a lot of our discussions, right? How much money we have. I don't want to, it's easier to know up front rather than at the very end and then trying to figure out what we're going to try to put back in. But and one last thing, and then I got to be driving around, so I'm going to be on and off. The town assessment line item, there's like I forget what it's called.
Facilities assessment?
There's two things. There's a facilities assessment, and then there's what's the other one? Like a miscellaneous. Sorry, I'm pulling up my thing right here. Oh, ADA improvements, ramps, entrances. Do we have like a laundry list of what that is earmarked for in specifically? And then WPS district-wide facilities assessment for 100. Can they just be prepared, the school department be prepared to talk about exactly what that is?
Yeah, I'll ask him that. The ADA one, my group will present and, we'll drill that down to infinite detail for you.
Awesome.
Well, I'd like to stress that we ought to really make most of our public facilities ADA compliant. And I know there's a historical question on some of those buildings, but I mean, there seems to be a lot of activity at the Art Center as of late. And, it distresses me a bit that people who have mobility issues can't get in there easily. So that would be a priority for me.
So there's a couple of things with that. So obviously, the town had a pretty robust discussion to the point where the Albion Street project that we did, we actually changed the scope of it because they were exploring out front. I do think there is a viable option to get that through the back. There's also a developer who is doing some work with the Santander Bank property. Who the town has expressed very strong interest in being able to do some work with them to get that access through there. So that's definitely something on the short list of things that I know the town wants to accomplish and get it right. I think one of the problems you'll find if we were to do that off the front of the building to make the grades work, we would essentially have to eat the sidewalk and some of the parking that's in front of that to get the transitions to work. We don't have as much of an issue through the back. We just need to make sure that all of the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. And that, both of these projects can kind of live simultaneously together. We do have an easement there that we're entitled to, which is a great benefit to us. So it's something that is on the forefront of some of the conversations with that facility.
So one of the things that we talked about as a group these last couple of years as well is setting a bar for the dollar value that we agree indicates a capital investment, right? I mean, I know it's, we see a lot of 8,000 and 10,000, $15,000 asks, but those add up. I mean, to the point of our overall capital cap is not increasing. One of the reasons that could be is if folks are looking at what we're approving as capital and really they're break fixes and really not investments, there could be a not an appetite, as it were, for increasing the ability and increasing the scope of capital because people aren't seeing the value that really we should be bringing as a capital committee. So, you know, if we're going, we usually end up talking about this as we're kind of starting to winnow away. Maybe if we start off the bat and say, you know, there always will be exceptions, but for the most part, if something comes in under $15,000 or something, it really should be allocated to some component of that area's operational funds for breaking and break fix. I don't know if folks have any appetite for that this year. Oh, Frank, you're on mute.
Well, last year, didn't you have concerns about some items that fit that category and then you changed your mind?
I don't think I changed my mind as much as I went along with the group.
Oh, okay. I think you make good points. I don't see why, you know, the library IT is really a capital expense. It's not that significant so that it can't be within operating.
Right.
But,
I mean, I did make that argument last year that we have to change our way of thinking. Computers and printers are now commodities that really should come out of an operating budget because they're office material now, right? It's no longer, you're not buying a desktop that's going to last 10 years. You're buying a desktop that'll last maybe 18 months.
I don't know, I've got some desktops here that are over 15 years old, but
Good on you.
they work for me, but
Just
But-
see,
I think we did kick back a lot of those library IT type things last year with the computers, just trying to avoid that precedent being set.
so I think that, you know, going forward, we ought to, you know, stress the points that David's making. It makes our job a little bit more easier.
Well, it's really on two fronts. It's, you know, David's point about really a definition of capital is what we're talking about. And I think durability is one of the standards that can be applied. But on the other side is the thing that Phil has raised, and that is that this budget has not, and these are related. I mean, they're two sides of the same issue. This budget has not expanded to reflect both the inflationary pressures that, you know, everybody faces, and also the needs that the town has. You know, I don't think we're omitting anything that isn't in the list, but it may be that the department heads are a little shy about definition because they know about our limits. So their requests are tailored. That's great up to a point, but you don't want to be trimming somebody's sails too much.
And that's a good point, what Dave's bringing up about the items. I mean, I'm looking at a couple that we approved last year, you know, a roof ladder, some other things that are hard items that are gonna be there a while, but like you said, we don't have to make a hard line. We could decide to go below that. You know, one thing for our argument that I noticed over the last couple of years, and it's right in front of us, is, you know, 7 years ago, 3 police cruisers cost $140,000, $130,000. Last year, obviously, it wasn't 3 cruisers, but it was about the same price with the van. That went up to $191. Now, this year, the ask is for $212. So we could use that point by itself to show that it is the inflation on our items. We're not getting any increase, but the costs of our items that we're we're repeatedly buying.
Yeah,
Are going up. So there should be that 5%. It didn't seem to me like anybody on the finance committee had any objections to our budget going up, let's say 5% every year. If I remember during the meeting when I was presenting to them, it was, and I have them in front of it. So 2 years ago, we were at about $2 million. And then last year we went up to 2.1, and they made the point, well, it appears you got your 5%. So there was nobody was gonna argue that. So if we go to 2.2 this year, or whatever 5% is, 2.21, without, Steve seems to be like, he doesn't want to be held to a number. So if we give him, if we present him something like this is where we like to be, let him come back and tell us that we can't. So let's, maybe figure out our own 5%. Put it in there and go from there. But I mean, I don't know if that's the right way to go about it, but that was, and I'm just looking back at the last couple of years too. We've only been over 2.1 million twice in the last 7 years. And obviously one of them was the COVID year. That was only at $1 million. So that doesn't count. But either way you look at it, no, we haven't had a significant increase over the, I bet you if we went back 10 years, it would probably be close to the same. From my experience, I'd say the only way we've been increasing our funding is that our leases have been going down. So 10 years ago, we might have had $500,000 in leases, and the way we've been working it down, there's our extra money right there. But that's just because we've been smart, not because we've been getting more money. There's a difference there.
right, big difference.
I mean, we could keep discussing this. We could table this discussion for next time when we're really digging into these. Unless you want to keep going, that's fine. I do want to make sure we get some dates for our next meetings. And I was informed today that the town council presentation is actually on March 13th. So that doesn't give us much time. Usually we get that extra week in there, but the last 2 years have been pretty smooth. So as long as we can get everyone to meet with us in the 2 weeks prior, I think we're going to be okay. And obviously, as long as we all can meet, we can do, so the week after school vacation, February 27th week, and then we have the March 6th week. Last year we did Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I think to fit everyone's schedule for 3 weeks in a row. This year, I mean, we can schedule Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe for the first week. We don't want to overload it, but we could do Tuesday, Thursday. We could do Wednesday, Thursday. Does anyone have any?
Yeah, I have to say, I have to take Thursdays off the table for me.
Okay,
I have a conflict on a regular basis on Thursdays.
okay.
So that's,
Dan, if we did one Thursday on the 9th to do our final vote, is that something you could get away for a little bit for, or is that
the 9th of March.
March 9th? I mean, we can always do it at a different time of day. We've done it before in the morning. In the past, we've done it like a 7 a.m., a 7:30 a.m., 8 a.m. Zoom call.
How does that
I'm talking
sound?
about our final vote. I want to make sure.
Yeah, how does that sound? Doing a morning on it, does the 9th, is the 9th preferred over the 8th, for example?
No, we could very well come to a final vote on the 8th. It depends how many meetings we get in between. So let me throw this out there. If we did the 28th, if we did you guys tell me if 3 nights in a row is too much.
Okay,
If we did the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Dan, obviously you missed that Thursday, but we don't have to have anybody insignificant there at that point. And then the following Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the 7th and 8th. And Honestly, let me throw this at, the way the list is looking and the way that my discussions have been going with Joe, as long as we can get everybody in front of us to present, I don't think our discussions are gonna be
Okay,
too
Yep.
extraordinary, but you never know. I don't wanna jinx it.
Joe,
sounds
I'll-
good to me.
Joe, it's Phil, just so you know.
Let me throw this out there. How about Tuesday and Wednesday, the 28th and the 1st, Tuesday and Wednesday, the 7th and the 8th? How does that work for everybody?
I like it.
Joe, I'll be missing 2 of 4 of those. I'm away the 28th and the 1st.
All right.
Yeah. And just to add insult to injury, I'm away the 7th and the 8th.
Okay. What, are you all away out the whole week, Dave?
Now I'm back on, I'll be back on the 9th and 10th.
Oh, so you're going on the 6th as well?
Yeah, 6, 7, and 8, I'm at a conference.
All right. Phil, are you around on the 9th?
Yeah, I after the 1st, I'm wide open. I just not around the
Okay.
28th and the 1st. So it is what it is. So you guys, as long as you have quorum, you should go for it. We're in a tight, that's a
Right.
tight schedule
The
here.
13th, having the meeting on the 13th, I think, it's not like we'd have the meetings over vacation anyways. It kind of just squeezes our timeline. Dan, I'll say we'll put the meeting for our vote on the 9th. That doesn't mean it has to be the 9th. We can move it to the 10th in the morning if we want to switch the time. But I'll put a meeting for our final vote, that usually doesn't take that long. I'll put that on March 9th. And obviously, I already asked, so Phil, you're not around, you wouldn't be around the 27th either, right? The Monday?
Nope. Nope.
So everyone else besides Phil on the
I'm okay with it.
7th and 8th, everybody else is good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, let's go with those 4 dates. Obviously, they're all recorded now. If you guys wanted to hear what the heads are saying, or if you want us to ask any questions, just let me know, let Joe know, let us know. And if you wanted to, you could even have a one-on-one discussion. I'm sure they wouldn't mind.
Oh, okay, so go ahead.
The 13th is a hard date for the town council. That's not changeable.
I'd have to ask. I'm gonna say yes, but I will find out for sure. That's when they have the warrant article slated to go before them.
What would their next meeting be? The 27th, right?
I think,
That would be too late, I think.
no, because they have something for time. Frank, I'll find out, Frank. I'll get
Okay,
it.
thank you.
I'll see Steve first thing in the morning.
Joe, can you send those dates and times out on email? Just after I'm driving, some sort of half listening, but I just want to plug them in. Or someone could just send something out on email with those dates. I just want to plug them in tonight.
Okay,
Not a problem. Does anybody want to talk to any department heads sooner than later?
I guess the schools would be useful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
usually our targets, right, are the police, fire, and schools.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, not to diminish the request, but I know like Chief Scory has just his cruisers this year. So I didn't know if maybe we wanted to get the conversation started with one of the bigger groups with the bigger requests. And then my group can go, basically what happened.
Yeah.
We'll see what kind of.
So what group are you suggesting, Joe, goes for? What's one of the bigger groups? Would that be the?
Oh, I'm not. I just didn't know if anybody had any preference on who they might want to talk to,
Oh.
first.
Yeah. I don't know whether the priority, they all got to get in there, so it's probably who's available when.
Okay.
all right, so considering that there in those first 2 weeks, there's not one day that we're not gonna be missing one person. Our hands are kind of tied. I don't like that, but I don't know. I'll still suggest that. The two Tuesdays, what did you say? The Tuesdays and Thursdays are back to you? No, I know, we can still have a meeting, but I wanted.
Monday, Wednesday.
Monday, Wednesday, okay. So have, your guys on one Tuesday and have, maybe school on the next, I have the school the first, have Tim come down the first Tuesday.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll shoot both a couple of dates in the schools and say what
Okay,
can you do?
but do that, give them the two Tuesday dates.
Yeah, and then I'm sure like the chief can,
Yeah, we can see the chiefs without you.
and what I might do is I'll ask Catherine to come in and we'll talk about the roof.
Yeah.
With my group,
Okay,
because we've been over there with her,
okay,
like looking at that, so we'll get her on first and then we'll go into the rest.
all right. So even if we have to overload one or two meetings with some people, at least we'll get everybody in.
Sure.
Do we need to meet with the police department?
It's up to you.
That's what Joe was just saying, that.
Yeah, like, I don't think we need, like,
Yeah, if there's
I
only
would-
one line item,
it's 3 cruisers every year. Like, I feel like to bring them into a meeting, like, I don't know. And the fire department doesn't even have a lot on the list this year. And I'd almost want to ask whether we need to meet with the fire chief either. Who I think he's out actually, but whoever would, acting chief, I don't know.
Well, do you guys feel that those items that they're asking for are capital, and by the way we were going, we're probably gonna say no.
Can they provide a narrative or something? Hey, this is why we need it. I don't know. Conscious of their time too, but whatever the group thinks. I'm not
Well,
probably.
Well, yeah,
I have the narratives, and what I'll do is, when we get off the meeting tonight, maybe through Frank, I'll get all that to you to read. And then if there's consensus that you want to talk to them, we'll invite them. If not, that's fine. And some of it's pretty self-explanatory, I think, once you read the little, documentation they get provided with it.
We just have so few meetings to have school department and DPW really take up the meetings, I think would be so helpful more than, but whatever.
So if everybody, when Joe sends out the information to me from the fire department, read it. If you feel, if we're all gonna agree to give it to them, there's no need for them to come in, I would assume. But if somebody has a problem with what they're asking, then we should probably have
okay,
it.
that's the way to handle it. Yeah, definitely.
Don't need to waste their time either.
Sure.
If we're all in favor of it before they even come in, there's
Yep.
no need preaching to the choir. All right, so again, unless someone has any problems, I'll throw the Tuesday, the 28th, Wednesday, the 1st, Tuesday, the 7th, and Wednesday, the 8th as our 4 meeting days.
7, 8. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
And
28th, 1st, 7th, and 8th.
yes.
Yeah.
And then
7.
I'm gonna, again, step out on a limb and say that hopefully by the 8th, we can have our vote. And then maybe on that night, if we need to go further, we can figure out a date to do our vote for the 13th. But right now, we'll just hold those 4 dates as our meetings. And we'll have Joe, we'll throw out to the school department and to his guys to come in and present to us on those days. Does that all sound reasonable?
Yeah,
Sounds good.
one more time with the dates, please. The 21st.
28th, Tuesday.
Okay.
March 1st, Wednesday. March 7th, Tuesday. March 8th, Wednesday.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
7 o'clock.
David, are you available the night of the 8th to call in and vote if we had to? That'd be in Bora Bora.
Who?
Oh, that would be awesome. No, I'm just going to Baltimore. I'll have to, I actually might be traveling at that point. I'll have to see.
Maybe we can move the time then, at least to get us together for 20 minutes to vote.
Yeah, I have no problem. I take the guidance of the committee and will participate in the vote. I mean, if we could do the vote Thursday morning, I could probably make it early. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, well, we can talk about that at the upcoming meetings. All right, well, but I'll shoot for that. We'll shoot for the 9th or the 10th for a final vote. Just to make sure we're all there. All right.
Yep,
I know we didn't review anything from the past year, but Joe can talk about it next. We went over a couple things, but our next meeting, he can interlude some of that stuff and let us know how things are progressing. But, anybody else have anything else they want to bring up?
No, I just said that I noticed the library rug, it looks great.
For the new rug?
yeah, they did a good job, yeah.
They did a nice job.
All right,
I
anyone want
move,
to?
I move we adjourn.
All right,
Second,
all right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks on February 28th.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
Take
thought it was
care.
the 21st,
28, 28.
28.
28th, okay.
And then the 1st, and then March 1st.
Yes, 28th, February 28th and March 1st.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And then it'll be all Zoom, right?
Yeah, unless I can ask him otherwise, I guess it's gonna be all like this. I gotta find out why, but
Yeah, I mean,
if we get together, I'll see if we can get us together.
okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night, everyone.
Good evening, good night.
Thank you.